Hello people, good morning. So today what I thought I would do is to do a little video on grapevines. So we are well into November now, temperatures dropped, things are approaching dormancy, and yeah, it's a good time to sort of get things organised, get planning, because the leaves are falling off, you can see your vines, and just a good time to think, contemplate, get organised and ready for next year. So we'll start with the vine here, Autumn Royal. So I'll just grab the camera and we will have a look. Okay, so if you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know that I set this vine earlier in the year. I believe I purchased it from Blackmore or Pomona, something like that. Certainly got it from a very good source. Now it doesn't look much at this time of year, because I stated earlier, dormancy's here more or less, and the leaves are starting to fall off down there. Grapevines require a period of winter chill in order to fruit the following year. So we'll just have a look. So looking at the vine coming down here, you will see the rootstock from here to here. Generally, if you purchase a vine, it will be grafted onto a suitable rootstock for disease resistance, etc, etc, and for a rootstock that should do well in the country in which the vine is intended to be grown. So look at that. So this was the rootstock here, and the vine, when I purchased it, was just up to here. So there to there. That's it. My finger is there. Yep, that's it. There up to here. And all of this growth here is all new growth that's come this season. There to there. You get the idea. And the same from here. And it runs all the way up, and it's grown through here. And what I've done is I've trained it all the way up the polytunnel here, all the way up and around and across there. Now it's hard to believe actually that all this growth is from one season, and this is particularly quick. One reason for that would be the fact that it's been in this polytunnel, and we had a very, very hot summer indeed by UK standards. It was probably up to over 40 degrees C in this polytunnel during the summertime. So acted as a catalyst, and of course this Autumn Royal being a vine which originates from California, so of course generally much warmer climate there, longer summer than what we get here. So thrived in the warmer temperatures, done really well actually. So I'm expecting some grapes off of it next year. Grapevines fruit on last year's growth, okay, so this next year will unsurprisingly all be last year's growth. So what it'll do is it'll put up little spurs, all being well, down here, and the grapevines, the grape bunches, sorry, will proceed to then hang down and be very nice. You'll see what I've done. I've tied it up using washing line here. I like to use washing line because it's relatively soft, it's durable, you know, you can cut it, you can use it for other things. I've used it for tying up things like brassica cages in the past, just good for, you know, tying things up in the garden. It doesn't deteriorate and perish, whatever the term is, like string would over time, something like that. So yeah, very good. You can continually reuse it. You can buy a big reel, get it from a, you know, a DIY store, you can get it from Amazon, get it off the internet, whatever. Very versatile stuff. So yeah, that's Autumn Royal, and what I've tried to do, it hasn't worked in all cases, is to avoid putting it behind, you know, these things here, these, what do you call it, supports, whatever, the frame of the polytunnel, because I don't want it to get too big and, so to speak, force the polytunnel to cause damage. It has happened here, but I couldn't get that out, and that's just the way it's grown. So I'll let it do that here, but the rest of them, I've not, the temptation was to thread it behind the frame here, but I didn't do that because just wanted to avoid any potential damage or it getting stuck or anything. So I've just used the washing line to tie it up. And if you look up there, same thing. So looking forward to the vines, the bunches, sorry, dangling down here. I think that'll look pretty cool when that happens, and the plan is eventually to, you know, really let this grapevine do well in this polytunnel. I'll probably let it get quite big. As you know, I've been following me for a while. This cherry trees coming out, so there's going to be a bit more space in here, all being well. So yeah, good first year for the Autumn Royal grapevine. Okay, so this one here, this is either Lakemont Seedless or Muscat Bleu, one or the other. Now, intriguing stuff. This was a cutting I took a few years ago, and you can see the... Now, this is not a grafted one, it's not on a rootstock, because it's simply a cutting. But you can see there, that was the cutting. It started to thicken out now, and last year there was a breakage, actually. A bit of it broke. That's just what happens sometimes. Maybe a fat bird sat on it. Something like that, I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, yeah. So this bit here, this was part of the breakage. I managed to put some flower arranging, otherwise known as grafting tape or whatever, around it, and that's helped to support that. So it's put out plenty of growth this year, so I'm hoping that there's going to be a few bunches of grapes on it next year. There won't be much, but if I get 1 or 2 bunches, I'll be very happy there indeed. So yeah, that's looking good. You know, if you're new to grape growing, obviously the vines don't look like this year round. It's because the leaves are falling off and going into the dormant period. So yeah, that vine's looking pretty good. This was another cutting that I took from, I believe this one is Lakemont Seedless, and I took that last year. Put out a little bit of growth this year, and yeah, I'm quite happy with how that's done. That'll then put out some growth next year, and the following year there should be some grapes on there, so very happy about that. Same down here, one here. I'm going to be tying these all up at a later date. Going back to this one, you can see I've just done a little bit of a brief tie-up job. I've left a lot of this work that I'm going to be doing with my own garden maintenance work for other people sort of dries up in the new year when I get a bit of time. I've left all this to be able to sort that out then. So that's the plan anyway. Okay, so I purchased this vine here at the same time as I purchased that Autumn Royal, and this is a grafted one. It's not being grown in a polytunnel, as you can see. It's out here, so it's not going to be growing as fast. It wasn't as good a specimen, to be honest, but I'm not worried about it. I'm going to leave it and see how it does. It's Lakemont Seedless, and we shall see what happens. But I'm going to leave it, you know, give it a bit of a chance to get its boots in, and we'll see what happens. Okay, if we look down here now, once again this looks totally unimpressive, but this was a cutting that I took earlier this year, and you can see that was the cutting there to there, and this is all the growth it's put up this year, so very happy about that. So that's going to be another vine in readiness for transplanting either to here or to someone else at a later date, but I'm very happy with how that's turned out. Nice bit of growth there. This is another cutting I took. Leaves have fell off of it now, but that one took, if I'm not mistaken, took some currant cuttings as well. And there, look. Another one here. Okay, so this is a cutting I took a few years ago. I've got it in this pot, and it's up against this really, obviously not this time of year, but this wall that gets very, very warm indeed in the summertime. So yeah, good catalyst for growth there and to help ripening. So yeah, this vine really has done well actually. See all this growth that this vine has put up. You can see just how much if I put the camera down here. Look at the sheer size of it. And this will more than definitely have some grapes on it next year. So what I'm going to do when the time comes, look at that, imagine that all trained up this wall, which is what I intend to do. So yeah, you can grow some decent crops of grapes in pots, and this will look very impressive tied up against this wall, maybe with you know, some wire, some raw plugs and some screws, etc. That should look pretty good indeed. It's put out some good growth. It's variety Muscat Bleu or Lakemont Seedless, I can't remember, but I will know when I see the resulting grapes what it is, because one is red and one is black. But sorry, one is green and one is black, forgive me. But make sure that when you do take cuttings or propagate, you write down somewhere that so you know what they are, because it is nice to know what varieties you're growing, I think. So there you go, a few grapevines I've got growing here. So 2 grafted vines you've seen some relatively new cuttings that I took earlier this year in the dormant season. probably around January, February time, something like that. Some more established cuttings that I've set in the open ground to establish and to get growing into some nice vines. So yeah, you can grow good vines here in the UK, good grapes, and there's a huge misconception that you can't, but you can. They've been grown here since the Roman times. There's vineyards all over the show now here in the UK, and very much worth you know, getting into. Of course, Autumn Royal not being a standard UK grown grape, this being a grape from California, so got the microclimate here in the polytunnel because it apparently appreciates the extra warmth and longer growing season that the polytunnel or the greenhouse can provide. So very good. Now, I've had a few people ask me about this vine here, and the traditional way to grow a grapevine in a polytunnel or greenhouse is to have the root outside and the vine inside the polytunnel or the greenhouse. You saw earlier that I've got the vine in the ground in the polytunnel, and I've done that because two reasons. I didn't want to make a hole in the plastic or anything, or feed the grapevine through the polytunnel. Maybe if you've got a greenhouse, you know, you can take a pane out and do it that way, but I didn't want to get around doing that. And grapevine roots, they grow very, very deep. They're very deep rooted, which is one reason why they thrive very well in poor soil, because they can go very deep for their nutrients. So yeah, I've got no problems about this you know, getting dehydrated, so to speak, when it's established, because the roots will be quite deep in order to find water. So yeah, and I have been adding a little bit of water to the soil around this, even during, you know, during this summer. I mean, it's very dry this summer, long, warm and dry summer, as I stated earlier, but even then I still, you know, didn't seem to harm the vine. I watered it once a week with plenty of water and it was fine. So yeah, no problems there. So a bit of grapes for you. I hope everybody out there, you know, if you want to have a go at a touch of the exotic, so to speak, grapes could be it. And you know, if you are sort of one call it a sort of rustic gardener, you might consider just getting a vine and putting it in and seeing how it grows. Now, be aware that grapevines are very, very vigorous indeed in general. So you know, if you put a vine in the ground and 5 years later, or even less than that, if you think that what this vine has achieved in 1 year, this should like compound year on year, so they can get very easily out of hand. So keep an eye on it, and just, you know, embrace grape growing, because it's a great thing to get into. You can, there's all sorts. You can, if you're into wine, you can make wine. You can give them to other people to make wine for you. If it's not your bag and they might want a few bottles of your wine, you can say, yeah, you know what, I've made some wine and it's from my own grapes, and I'd imagine that would be very satisfying indeed. And yeah, so worth doing. Of course, eat them at the table as dessert grapes. So enough talking for now. Any questions you've got, post them below. And had some lovely responses on a few of my last videos, so thank you very much for that. Keep commenting, keep asking me questions. I might not respond immediately. That's because, you know, I'm still rather busy with work, and sometimes when I get home I've got stuff to do, and you get the idea. So just let me know really any comments, questions, and I'll answer them. Thank you very much. Take care, speak soon, and if you like my work, please feel free to like, share and subscribe. See you next time.